Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. Along with Zach Meisel, I'm Adam the Bull. And Zach, I know you can't get enough of the big win by the Guardians in the Ohio Cup. It's sweeping the nation right now.
When you lived in New York all those years, were you aware of the Ohio Cup?
It was the second biggest Ohio story I covered besides LeBron leaving for Miami.
Okay. What about the barge? Did you know about the barge?
Unfortunately, we knew nothing about that. That was below the radar. But nothing's below the radar when it comes to the Guardians on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. All right, Zach, by the way, we got to get the word out because I was listening to, I read your article or your column. Do you say column or article? When am I supposed to make a distinction?
I mean, that was a column.
That was a column, right?
But the lines have been blurred these days.
Yeah, they have. But great column. And it got referenced on Power Alley on MLB Radio. I don't know if you heard about that. Jim Duquette, former GM, giving you credit for that. And but of course he called you Zach Meisel. And I would have texted Mike Ferrin to correct him, but Mike wasn't on that day. There was somebody else filling in for him. So I was like,
I've gone too long. I don't correct people when they say that. I went the longest time without it because I thought it sounded professional or like French. I don't know.
I mean, there are athletes who don't correct people, right? All of a sudden, remember when Tyrod Taylor came to Cleveland? All of a sudden, he was like, well, my name's Tyrod. Even though everybody had been calling him Tyrod for a decade.
Yeah, and I just remember doing a segment once with Ken and Anthony years and years, I mean, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we spent the whole segment debating the name. And like they wanted to get my mom on the phone. And yeah, so whatever. Call me what you want. I've been called worse.
Yeah, well, I guess. Have you?
Yeah. I'm sure I was called worse by members of the organization after that ran.
Certainly. I'm still waiting to see WKYC put in a press pass for me to go to Browns camp today. I'm waiting to see if that gets approval. Or I think they might be shadow banning me from Browns camp. I know that they don't like me very much. I don't care about that, but it is what it is. But let's talk about a team that actually is a good organization. Generally, they have their flaws. But let's talk about the Guardians, and we will get into the flaws and everything that's gone on with whether they will or will not try to improve this team between now and 6 p.m. on Monday. But let's go back. Obviously you've joked and I've joked about the Ohio Cup, and that doesn't really, obviously it's not a big deal, but it was good for the Guardians to get this series win. That is what is important. And the one thing that stood out to me, of course, was that Kyle Manzardo had a good series. He hit the grand slam in the first game of the doubleheader on, my days are all jumbled now, Tuesday? Was that Tuesday, the doubleheader? And then, of course, he hits the home run on Wednesday as well in the third and final game of the series. So what's the bigger story to you right now? Is it them taking 2 out of 3 because they lost a number of series, or maybe, having some hope that Kyle Manzardo is going to get hot here?
Yeah, well, they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, they needed a series win. Like, you can't, if you want us to take you seriously, you can't. It's one thing to lose in Tampa. Tampa, I think, is a really good team.
Right.
But if you want us to take you seriously, you can't lose 2 or 3 to the Reds. The funny thing is, if you would have told me before the series they're going to lose one game, I would have said the one they're definitely not going to lose is when they have Gavin Williams against a bullpen game, and the bullpen game is not with relievers who are any good.
Right.
So to get shut out in that game is on 3 hits was just inexcusable. But they took care of business in the other 2. They knocked around Chase Burns, which was nice to see. And if Manzardo is heating up, and you certainly hope he is here, that's critical, right? Like they need that. They need some thump. He leads the team with 13 home runs, which is a tiny number. Tomorrow's August, so they need some power. They need guys to get going. And, like I think it felt like that entire series, Quan and Ramirez and DeLauder, like 2 of the 3 would get on. And then you get to the middle of the order and they just couldn't produce. Obviously Manzardo hits the grand slam.
Yeah.
And they produced there, but it felt like, especially in that second game and for the first half of the finale, they'd have 2 guys on and they just could not deliver. So if you get Manzardo going, that's someone who can drive in those runs, and they really need that.
Yeah, and I was saying yesterday on the big show that you haven't had, like, if we would have, the funny thing about their lineup, because overall, like, it feels like it's just as bad as it's been in past years.
It is.
Right, it is, but it's for a different reason than we expected.
Yeah.
Because if I would have told you in the beginning of the year that Rocchio, Bazzana, and DeLauder would be as good as they've been, we would have thought the offense would be a lot better, because you thought you knew what you were getting, at least to some degree, from Jose, Quan, and Manzardo. But those guys have all been disappointments, while the next 3 guys have all stepped up. If we can get 2 months down the stretch of Jose, Quan, and Manzardo playing, at least close to their best, and DeLauder, Bazzana, and Rocchio just kind of doing what they're doing, then now you have 6 legit lineup spots. And I said this yesterday too, and I'm curious if you agree or disagree. Yes, you'd like to have more. You always want more superstars. I get it. But the biggest problem with the Guardians lineup has not been they didn't have enough superstars, or that wasn't their biggest problem. The problem is they had too many zeros in the lineup. You can get by. If you only have 1 superstar, that's fine, but you got to at least have 7 other guys. I'll say you could have 1 zero, but you got to at least have 7 other guys that are at least good, solid ball players, and that's what they've. I don't want to say never had, but it's been a long time. It's been probably close to a decade since they've had that. And right now they should have less zeros than they've had the past few years. And they ultimately do, but the lineup hasn't improved overall because the 3 most reliable guys have not been good enough. Or at least the guys you thought were most reliable.
The bottom line is they ranked 29th in baseball in OPS last season, and they ranked 30th in OPS this season. So they have taken that number right there says they've taken a small step back. But the main point here is you can assign blame wherever you want. And I think in my piece the other day, I went a number of directions and probably could have gone more harsh in some, like on the coaching side or the coaching hiring practices, things like that. But I just think I want to give credit to the development and the arrival and the decision to, DeLauder was on the opening day roster and Bazzana was up in April. Kudos for that. Those were good decisions and they've panned out. And Quan has taken a step back and Manzardo's taken a step back, and you haven't gotten development from other people, but there's no margin for error. And when you run a $70 million payroll, you get stuck with a bottom half of the lineup for stretches where it's Schneemann and Arias and Bailey and Halpin in the bottom 4 spots. And it's like, well, what do you expect that lineup to produce, right? And it's like if 1 or 2 guys slump or get hurt, which happened, there's no recourse. There's no backup plan. And I think that's where it's self-inflicted. They didn't do anything in the offseason. And I'm not saying go spend $50 million. And like, I get it. Free agency often does not work out, but then make trades. Like you can't have it. You can't, they're like sitting at a fork in the road at all times and they just put the car in park.
Yeah. That's, and then the one trade they make is for a catcher. And I get that he's a tremendous fielder, but he can't hit.
Right. So I just, you said it, like you don't need a lineup of all-stars. That's just not realistic.
Yeah.
But you have to convert some of the F's in your lineup to C's even.
Yeah.
And they didn't take enough of an interest in doing that.
Yeah.
And I referenced Chris Antonetti saying on multiple occasions over the winter. I remember him saying it at the winter meetings. I remember him saying it at Jose Ramirez's press conference. It's been referenced in spring training. Like they said, we're going to go on the internal development and youth. And if it doesn't work out and we need to add something at the deadline, we can do that. Well, the deadline's Monday.
Yeah.
And it's a really complicated trade market. There's been a ton of dialogue across the league over the last week. Like I would say it started heating up maybe earlier than it has in recent years. And I think that's because everybody is confused. Everybody's trying to figure out who fits where. Now we've gotten some clarity, right? Like it certainly seems like the Tigers are going to sell. The Twins want to buy for some reason.
Yeah.
And
which, by the way, listen, I know it seems crazy to you and I because we haven't been a believer in the Twins, and I will continue not to be a believer in the Twins. But I'm never going to rip an owner for trying to win. They want to try it. Listen, we've been saying the American League's wide open. It's still true. So crazier things have happened, I guess.
Yeah, I just think they've overachieved to this point, and they have Joe Ryan for one more year, and I think Byron Buxton for 2.
Yeah,
and next year, who knows if it'll happen. So it's odd. But I understand they're in a tough spot because ownership is desperately trying to appeal to the fans who are not happy and not really showing up. So that's fine. But yeah, so like they need to. It's not even so much. I'm not saying like, hey, you need to add to this lineup because you got to go win this year. It's no, add to this lineup because I don't think you're going to add to it over the offseason. So like, why not just get a head start on that?
Yeah.
And finally fix some of the deficiencies. I mean, it's the same conversation. It's the same style of baseball every year. And how about one of these years you don't waste a really good, healthy pitching staff?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've said it a million times since we've been doing this show. You got to be aggressive. I think there's even more of a reason to do it now because the American League is so wide open. And yes, they're probably, but they're going to. You're right. They're better off trying to trade for a guy who's controllable because they're going to need that hitter next year too, most likely. Right. But I would love to see them trade for a controllable hitter at one spot and then get a rental at another spot to improve 2 spots if you can, because obviously, depending on who it is, if you're trading for a controllable guy, it's going to cost you more prospect capital. So, go get a guy who's controllable and then trade for Taylor Ward also, who's not going to cost you that much. So trade for how many years does Joe Adele have left?
I think 2 more.
Yeah. So
do you like him? He's had a bad year.
I think as if you put him in the middle of the lineup in this stadium with this, there's such a loser mentality with the Angels. I just feel like it permeates the whole team, not named Mike Trout. I think he'd do well here. Yeah. I mean, certainly I could be wrong. He's a flawed player, but the upside is there. But if you like somebody else, okay, fine. Like somebody else, but don't just, as you say, park the car and stand on the sidelines while the parade goes through and everybody else gets better. Because the Twins, they made it. I know it's not a massive move, but they traded for AJ Minter. They know their weakness is their bullpen. They already added one guy. There's no reason the Twins should be aggressive and the Guardians should not. In an American League and I get it. You're like, oh, nobody can beat the Dodgers. Okay, well, yeah, all the best teams are in the National League. So you only would have to beat one of them in theory.
I also think there's something to be said for there's a lot of remember the strike in 95, 94, 95. When baseball came back, attendance plummeted. Every single team's attendance went down except 2. I think it was the Rangers and the Indians. And obviously we know Cleveland started the sellout streak and baseball had a renaissance here. And there were external factors, right? The Browns left. You had a brand new stadium. The team was good for the first time in 40 plus years.
Yes.
But I think there's something to be said for if this is going to be ugly and it's these 2 sides aren't going to be able to get together on a new collective bargaining agreement and it's going to cost you games. you want good sentiment with your fans. You still want fans to be excited about what's next whenever that happens, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do think there's some importance in wanting to end this year on a good note. I understand the Dodgers are going to be so hard to
Yeah.
get rid of, but like, forget them.
Yeah.
Especially if the dynamics of the league change. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said about trying to stand tall in this American league and
I
just
agree.
what it can do. You could have fans desperate for the lockout to end because they want to see you build off of what you accomplished this year.
Right.
And winning the AL Central with 84 wins and then getting boat raced like in the wild card round or the ALDS is not going to do that.
That's right.
Like, make an actual run, and I think you can build up some goodwill that would be valuable. Otherwise, like, like we've seen it before. If there's a lengthy lockout and it costs you games, some fans might not come back.
Yeah. No, that's true. And by the way, if there's going to be a lockout and they're going to miss games, then the owners have to get their salary cap. And I hate the owners. I'm pro union 100%. But in this case, what's best for the fans is a salary cap and more importantly, a salary floor. Because I don't blame the Dodgers for this. I blame the Guardians. I blame the Rays. That and again, I'm not expecting them to spend what the Dodgers do. The Dodgers are taking advantage of a system that favors teams that are willing to spend. So I'm not going to blame their ownership for trying to win, but you got to force the small market teams to pay more, to spend more. But anyway, you're right. And yes, if the Guardians, let's say they got to the World Series, even if they lost to the Dodgers, which would be heartbreaking, of course, or lost to the Brewers, for crying out loud, that would be quite interesting for the if it was a Brewers Guardians World Series for the salary cap. But I know Anthony Castrovins has wrote about this a lot, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think people that are saying this competitive balance in baseball are being disingenuous with their analysis of the numbers. But anyway, obviously we'll find out, and we'll do. We will be on earlier next week at some point. You and I will work it out. It depends what the Guardians do, but probably either sometime on the weekend or Monday, or definitely by Tuesday. If they don't do anything, or Monday night, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But let's talk about what. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, what I know you guys have been lobbying names on the big show all week.
Yeah.
Where are you at? Like, as we get closer and closer, do you have your, this is the plan, this needs to be the plan, these are the guys I want?
We did. Were you watching the segment where we picked our dream scenario, and then I did realistic scenario?
Yeah, Morahone and Ward,
yeah.
2 rentals.
Yeah, because I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't have faith that they're going to be willing to part with any decent prospects. And
yeah,
Morahone and Ward are both nice players. I mean, they both would make the Guardians better, and you wouldn't have to give up much to get them. I'm all in for going all in and trading almost anybody from the system to, depending on who you can get. My dream scenario, of course, was Mason Miller and Byron Buxton, and obviously the Twins are not selling at this point, but I was it's tough in terms of the hitting targets out there. I know Chris Renkel brought up O'Neal Cruz, who's on the injured list, and the Pirates are not going to trade him. They'd be very stupid to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the second guy he said? Oh, JJ Bleday. I like him. He's been very up and down, to the point where teams have cut him, and yet, and this is now a second really good year he's had. I don't know. I'm uneasy about JJ Bleday. I'm not sure exactly why, because he had good draft stock, and he's been good in 2 seasons, and then other seasons he's been so bad he's been either cut or sent to the minors. So, I don't know.
I do think Morehone's going to be the best reliever traded at the deadline.
Yeah, probably.
I believe if you look past the ERA, which is 3. Usually it's 2. Yeah. But if you look at his Baseball Savant page, every slider is all the way to the right, as red as it gets. And
he'd be a great addition for them.
I've had people say he's the best left-handed reliever in baseball. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Yeah. He's still young. I think he's like 26, 27. So the thought is he'll probably be traded, but Mason Miller won't.
Yeah.
And you're going to get into a bidding war for him. I don't know what he cost.
Yeah.
The hitting side, like there's a lot of different options. I don't know that any are like slam dunks. I don't know, like that Heriberto Hernandez on the Marlins. I don't know that he's actually available. He's got 5 years of control.
Yeah.
He's got power, a great arm. He can steal a few bases.
Yeah.
Like, he'd be a perfect fit, right-handed hitter.
Yep. Jason suggested Elliot Ramos from the
I think
Giants.
he is a really good fit. I think that's more realistic. I don't know. The Giants want pitching. I don't know what the Guardians give up there. Maybe you have to be Braylon Doty, who's their top pitching prospect, who's at Double-A now. I don't know if they'd want to do that.
Yeah.
I think they're going to try to dangle Cooper Ingle in front of teams and see what they can get for him. So we'll see. You're right. There's a divide though between like those guys are signed, they're under control for multiple years, and then there's a bunch you can go a bunch of different directions with rentals. And
there's no reason they shouldn't do both and get 2 hitters.
Sure. So it depends. Like, Taylor Ward is having a weird season, but he'd be an upgrade over somebody.
Yeah, sure.
Could I interest you in a Luis Robert Jr.?
I mean, the guy has so much potential, but between injuries and ineffectiveness, I mean, I would think the Mets couldn't get much for him.
No, he would cost next to nothing.
If I have to give up a C level prospect, maybe a B minus level prospect, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's a good defensive outfielder.
Yeah, and in center. And this team's been looking for a center fielder forever. Yeah. And he had a career year. I'm by no means am I like TJ Zuppe asked me about him last week, and I said no. But he had a career year in 2023, and it was like he finished 12th in MVP, but it's also like, where are you getting a center fielder who can hit 38 homers, 36 doubles, steal 20 bases?
Yeah.
857 OPS like that. Those are so rare.
And you make a trade with the Mets, maybe you grab one of their relief pitchers. So they have some good arms.
Rayleigh. Yeah. Now the thing is, like, he's been terrible for 3 years since. So that's why he'd cost next to nothing. He's making $20 million this year, and then has a $20 million option next year. And I just don't see the Guardians picking that up.
No,
because they won't know by the deadline if there's a salary floor for next year. So who knows? I mean, although maybe he tears the cover off the ball for the final 2 months and they pick it up, and then they can maybe trade him or meet the new salary floor. Who knows? But that's a name to keep an eye on. So we'll see. I also think, given he's been terrible for 3 years, that can't be like your only move. Can't be
no. If that's your second edition, that's great.
Right.
That's the go get a controllable player. And, ideally they get a center fielder and a first baseman /DH.
Sure. I mean, David Fry, I assume he's going to play tonight and tomorrow because you're facing lefties, but he hasn't played all week.
No.
And he's really struggled. So I get it. But if he's already lost his defensive versatility because they don't use him at catcher anymore, and he's hitting a $184 with,
I don't even know why. I have no clue why he's on the roster.
Right. So you could upgrade that spot. You could upgrade, like, Petey Halpin doesn't need to be playing 7 days a week.
No, it's ridiculous.
They can fit someone if you want to move on from Rhys Hoskins. So you can certainly add 2 hitters to this mix.
Yeah.
And you have flexibility because you could open up the DH. So you have flexibility on what position those guys play.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I know 2 candidates we talked a lot about, or at least some about, Spencer Steer and Casey Schmidt, are both hurt. Schmidt's gone for the year. I don't think Steer's done for the year, but you're not going to trade for him because he's going to be out for a while.
Yeah.
They're not trading for Francisco Lindor. Matt Chapman. I mean, some of those other guys on the Giants are just, they're bad contracts. You mentioned Luis Robert. Gleyber Torres is a name, but I mean, he could DH for them.
Like, I think Luis Ariz is out because Ariz wants to stay at second base, and there will be another team that sticks him at second base.
Yeah.
Ty France from the Padres.
Yeah.
having a career year, and that was
Yeah,
one where he signed with the Padres on a minor league deal a week before the Guardians picked up Rhys Hoskins. So,
yeah.
you could have been in a scenario where you didn't have to trade for him. How about George Springer, free agent at the end of the year?
He's a free agent at the end of the year.
He is. He's been DHing.
Yeah,
all season.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he is a DH. And another guy we've talked about, Itzhak Paredes.
Yeah, but I think the Astros are gonna buy. That's another team
they're a team that could buy and sell at the same time.
Yeah, they've been looking to move Paredes.
Yeah, like
since the winter.
There's been rumors that the Cubs would be willing to, as they're looking to buy pitching, they would be willing to trade Suzuki and Carson Kelly. I don't like the idea of trading. I think the Cubs would be very stupid to trade either of those guys, especially Suzuki. And the Guardian, I mean, obviously Suzuki would be an incredible fit for the Guardians, but the Cubs need starting pitching, and the Guardians don't have that to trade because they need major league starting pitching. But yeah, I mean, there are, yes, it's not the pitching market is better than the hitting market at the moment,
which is very rare.
Very rare, but it is. But there are definitely hitters out there you can get. I mean,
would you be
willing to give up?
Yeah, would you be in favor of trading for a back end starter and moving Ciccone to the bullpen?
Yes, absolutely. I hadn't thought about the Ciccone in the bullpen part, but that's interesting. He could be an interesting bullpen guy. Yeah. And it could be a temporary thing where he's like the Carrasco situation, maybe.
Right.
You're really lucky and goes to the bullpen, pitches well, and then maybe you give him another shot, or maybe he just becomes a good relief pitcher. We saw Chase Silseth, who just got traded to the Rangers. He was a starter.
Nothing.
What's that?
For nothing.
That was a weird trade.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sent Logan O'Hoppe to the minors, which I know he hasn't been great, but it's just weird. It's not like the Rangers have great catchers, but so yeah, maybe that could. I mean, what back end start are you looking at?
I don't know. I just know there's a lot out there.
Yeah. I mean, do you think of Clay Holmes as a back end starter?
No, but it doesn't have to be a back end starter either. It could be any starter.
I mean,
go get Nace. Go get Freddie Peralta if you want. Yeah.
Freddie Peralta has had a miserable season, but I'm completely convinced that if he ended up back in Milwaukee, which if you're the Mets, you can't trade him back to Milwaukee.
No.
But if he ended up here in Cleveland or whatever, I bet you'd pitch great. I would love for the Guardians to go get Freddie Peralta because the Mets just can't get as much as they'd like to, but they'll get more than you would for another pitcher struggling as much as he is.
Well, and look, they need offense. There's no disputing that. They have to get somebody. But if you can't get the ideal slam dunk fit, I have no problems with you going and bolstering the pitching staff and then trying to get your way to the playoffs and then win every playoff game 3-2.
Yeah. And by the way,
it worked in 22 and 24 to an extent.
Yes. But you could do, I mean, in theory, you could make a blockbuster with the Mets to get Freddie Garcia, Brooks Raley, and Luis Robert, and then make another trade with the Tigers for Gleyber Torres or the Astros for what's the name I just mentioned? Itzhak Paredes. Or a player or even Taylor Ward. And I don't know between those two trades, if you're giving up that big a draft capital, you're going to have to give up one really good prospect to get Peralta, but you don't have to give up Ralphie Velasquez in that deal.
No.
So
Hanau is going to be the interesting one because he is soaring up these prospect rankings. Or Keith Law at The Athletic had him at the number 14 prospect in baseball with his latest update last week. So, and I think he's high on MLB.com as well. Like but he doesn't have an obvious position, like the decision, if they want to move Travis Bazzana to the outfield, that's a conversation for
the offseason.
And I also think that they would prefer not to have to do that because he could be better value at second base. And also he's got the work ethic and the instincts to maybe improve at it.
Yeah, I know Mike Barron has told me for years he thought Bazzana was an outfielder,
and maybe he is.
But I wouldn't give up on second. I would Like if he works intensely this offseason, really, let's see how much better he can get. I mean, he doesn't need to be great at second. He needs to be adequate. Right now, he's below adequate as a defensive player. So
they've got to figure out
Yeah.
where they like Hanau
Yeah.
and how he fits into this puzzle, and if there's a really good player they can get in return for him right now, does that make more sense? I don't know the answer to that. These are the things that they have to weigh internally. So we'll see. Like they've got farm system depth, it just requires you to not like one of your own prospects as much as someone else likes that prospect.
That's true.
And I think they have a lot of guys, like a Jason Chorio, or I know you always like saying Wellbeing Francisca, or like one of these guys.
What do if they don't make any significant moves, they'll be saying, oh, we're going to call up Ralphie Velasquez and whatever. And maybe he'll be great, but it's again relying on another young, unproven hitter.
Look, they haven't won a World Series since 1948. It's not fair to put that on a 21-year-old.
Right. A lot of 21-year-olds,
right?
22-year-olds. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. But like I said, folks, we'll be back with you at some point between now and Tuesday, the latest, depending on what happens. So just stay alert. I'll put something out on Twitter. If we're gonna go in some breaking news or whatever, let's hope there's breaking news for the Guardians, and it's just not us coming on Monday night or Tuesday morning. And there's no game Monday, I think, right? Aren't they?
Monday's an off day. Yep.
Yeah, so we could come on in theory on Monday, and they didn't do anything. So hopefully that won't be the next podcast, is us complaining that the Guardians did nothing at the trade deadline or made one minor move for a platoon outfielder that will play against lefties. That's not all they do. But
Lane Thomas, come on down.
Yeah.
It's a big weekend too. They face, I know the Diamondbacks have played really well lately, but they're facing someone named Mitch Bratt.
Yeah, he's back-to-back rookies, Mitch Bratt and Cole Drake, who both got called up in the last month.
And then it's Gavin Williams, Merrill Kelly on Sunday. So
Kelly's not the pitcher he was. He's not very good anymore.
I don't want to say you have to sweep, but
and as bad as the Mets are, you're facing McClain and Scott in that series, who are both good young pitchers. So I mean, the Mets are terrible and they can't hit and they can't play the field.
And the White Sox go at Tampa, at Boston. So this is the week to make up the 2 games that you sit behind them and build some momentum, make a couple trades, have everybody feeling good, and cruise into the summer.
Cubs play the Yankees, Dodgers next series. I like that. I like playing the other good teams and seeing what's what. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll stay in touch with you and let you know when we'll be back on again. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. I'll be on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today with Jason Lloyd and Earl the Pearl starting at 10 o'clock. We'll talk to you later.